our 3-part webinar series. We really appreciate everyone taking the time to join us, and appreciate the fact that many of you have come out of lockdown and probably are trying to get through your backlog. But we wanted to make this a more regular feature of our business in terms of supporting you through your learning pathway. Why is my screen not moving? Sorry. There we are. Just as a quick introduction to myself and then Maria. So just to meet your hosts. So my name is Paul Sewell. I'm the National Sales Manager for Aesthetics for Endotherapeutics. Endotherapeutics, the business itself, has been around for over 20 years, and we're in predominantly surgical devices, gynecology, urology, etc. In terms of my background, I've got a science degree. I've worked in multiple different sales roles with close to 20 years of experience. But what I think is most relevant here today is the fact that I do share your passion for LPG endermology, and I'm looking forward to having a COVID-free year to actually work on LPG. We took it over at the beginning of 2019, and we've been obviously interrupted a few times by COVID. So we're looking forward to the start of 2022. Maria, many of you know already, but Maria has over 15 years of experience with LPG endermology. She's originally from Spain, trained as a physiotherapist, then moved to France and worked in rehabilitation centres and private clinics on endermology, which then led her to actually take on a role as an international trainer. Sorry, could we just get everyone to put their screens on mute, if that's all right? Thanks. So basically, Maria then moved across as
Why can't we see them?
Hello, sorry.
That's okay. So Maria moved across to being an international trainer for LPG, and then following her move to Australia, she previously worked with the France medical team, but we really excited to have her on board with us working as a trainer. And many of you have already had your experience with Maria in terms of her knowledge and expertise. So she's a fantastic asset. What I'll aim to cover off today is my section just for 20 minutes, and I'll just aim to cover off some of the key statistics around pregnancy. I'll discuss pregnancy and when LPG is relevant. I'll talk in brief about gestational weight gain and the importance of LPG in managing that. I'll talk in brief about Cesarean scars and how LPG can assist with that. I'll talk about fluid retention, what causes it, and then how LPG can help. I'll talk in brief about the fluid mobilization protocol, which is relevant for during pregnancy, and then we'll go on to the practical demonstration of the young mums protocol, which Maria will handle. In terms of some of the statistics, the Australian government has actually been has been predicting a decline in birth rates to an all-time low of only 1.59 babies per woman. However, some of the research I undertook is actually showing that it's the opposite, where Medicare data for pregnancy serology tests is actually showing an increase of over 8.9%, and Victorian Government Health Services data is actually showing there's been a 20% increase in demand for maternity health services. And this was further backed up by HCF data, which is also reporting a 22% increase in newborn deliveries. Like with all data, it's important to read between the lines or to look at it from the big picture. We may not be going into a baby boom. It may just actually be a shifting in the timing of pregnancy due to the uncertainty in the early stages of COVID. Nevertheless, this topic and just LPG and pregnancy in general is just a good opportunity for you to actually unpack some new clients for your business and bring more people into your business. And pregnancy is a particularly important topic that's relevant to LPG. Something else I found out, which was also quite interesting, was the fact that preterm births globally to have declined during COVID. A Danish study actually reported a 90% reduction in severely preterm babies being born. So that's babies born 28 weeks or less. And there was an Irish study that I found that had shown a 73% reduction in preterm births compared to prior 19 years. And what this is showing is that, number one, with COVID safety measures, we're probably being more hygienic. And so therefore, one of the biggest reasons for preterm birth is infection. And so women are being more protected from infection, just hand sanitizing, staying home. But what's also important is the fact that our pregnant mothers have been actually getting more rest and more partner support, which rest being a very important factor is very relevant to LPG, because LPG being a very relaxing treatment, it's something that can help complement a woman during pregnancy. In terms of when is LPG relevant, basically I've described it as all three stages. So planning pregnancy, and this is just to work on the overall health and well-being of the mother, particularly when it comes to BMI, and I'll discuss BMI in a moment. But during pregnancy, depending on the stage, living in a really hot climate, particularly in Queensland, North Queensland, just that feeling of being uncomfortable, fluid retention, very heavy feeling, and then post-pregnancy. So that's to manage things like fluid retention, BMI gains following pregnancy, but also, as I mentioned earlier, the importance of managing the Cesarean scar. A comment on gestational weight gain. Basically, in a country like Australia, we're a very affluent country, demographic and lifestyle changes are actually increasing BMIs during pregnancy. There was I know the French study that I've reported here probably isn't as relevant to the Australian market, but it was just interesting in terms of statistics that 37% of women in that study had shown adequate weight gain, 26% had shown insufficient, but more than a third, 36.2%, had actually shown excessive weight gain during pregnancy. The significance of this is the fact that increased weight gain during pregnancy is actually associated with an increased birth rate by cesarean, but also, more importantly, increased weight gain during pregnancy leads to excess weight being carried postpartum. In terms of some of the statistics around that, 10 to 15% of women report normal weight gain postpartum. However, gestational weight gain postpartum is a significant issue for the vast majority, with the average weight gain of being 3.21 kilos, which increases out to 4.65 after 15 years. But what's more interesting here is the fact that multiple pregnancies will exacerbate weight gain, so you have a compounding of the issue. In terms of cesarean section and why this is relevant here, again, similar to our BMI gains, Australia is also showing a very high cesarean rate of over 34%, which may be probably quite heavily to our BMI gains. A comparative economy or demographic, you could say Iceland has only got a 15% cesarean rate, and the WHO actually recommends a 10 to 15% incidence of cesarean is ideal. So what's actually causing this high cesarean rate? It's possibly exposure to infection. The more a woman is out and about and living a very busy, active life, there may be a higher chance of being exposed to various infections. High living pressures. So particularly, I know most people who have been pregnant will actually work through to their last month almost. And so just that effort of running around, working, keeping a household going, that's causing potentially increased cesarean rate, but also, as I mentioned earlier, gestational weight gain. Cesarean section and its relevance to LPG and relevance to this talk, basically, every cesarean section leads to abdominal and pelvic adhesions, and these develop after cesarean section. Basically, these adhesions are fibrous bands that form between the abdominal organs and the abdominal wall. The incidence of adhesions after just one cesarean are as high as 46 to 65%, and these increase significantly with subsequent cesareans. And basically, each subsequent cesarean increases the thickness and extent of those adhesions. The adhesions are associated with impeded lymphatic and venous flow, and they lead to long-lasting fluid retention in the legs and pelvic region. And this was just a table that I found that basically showed that I think after 4 cesarean section, there's an 80% chance of having extensive adhesions and fibrous bands forming. So, my wife, as an example, has had 3 cesarean sections. She does, feel the impact of having those multiple cesareans, and has, reported, having that feeling of a very heavy fibrous band around her abdomen. In terms of cesarean section and postpartum fluid retention, basically the options are things like pressure therapy, local injection of medications, so things like steroid injections, autologous fat transfer. I mean, these are high in stem cells, so they're all valid treatments. You've also got laser therapy, radiation therapy, and surgical intervention. Interestingly, surgical intervention will help potentially eliminate the fibrous band, but it actually can then also lead to subsequent fibrous bands and scar tissue. So probably not the best option. And so if you look across to LPG, you'd probably actually argue that it's probably the most valid and less invasive. So it's basically non-invasive. It works to mobilize the tissue and soften those fibrous bands, and can be used on recent or old scars. So you could have a client come in with a 20-year-old Cesarean scar, and you'd be more than able to work on that Cesarean scar. In terms of fluid retention, which is now heading towards our segue into the actual practical demonstration, basically fluid retention is caused by three main reasons during pregnancy. And that's basically more blood is produced to help the baby grow. So the actual blood volume increases during pregnancy. The uterus itself is pressing on the lower abdomen and the hip regions, which slightly blocks the veins that return from the legs. And hormones also make the walls softer. So therefore, the muscular action of the vessels and the surrounding tissue that help bring the fluid back to the upper body is impeded. In addition, small amounts of blood leak into the surrounding tissue, which then also causes the swelling. Something to just note here, and it's important, like with all our LPG treatments, to do a full assessment and understand the overall medical situation you're dealing with. Something to just be cautious of is preeclampsia in pregnancy. And so if this is suspected, don't treat with LPG. Get your client to consult with their LPG or their doctor. So in terms of preeclampsia, if you're not already aware, basically it's a complication that's characterized by high blood pressure. It can also cause damage to things like the liver and the kidneys, and usually begins 20 weeks at the 20-week point where blood pressure was previously normal. Rarely it can develop also postpartum, so that's also important to illuminate. In terms of what to look out for, and again, we're not meant to be a clinician managing a woman's pregnancy, so I think at the end of the day, refer them to a GP or their midwife, but just things to look out for if you've already got a client that you've been working with, is if they have a reported increase in blood pressure, greater than 140/90, and this normally would have to be over multiple occasions where previously it wasn't reported. Excess protein in the urine. So a woman who's suspected of having preeclampsia may have a blood test or a urine test. Severe headaches, upper abdominal pain, and blurred vision or visual disturbances. So anything reported like that, during pregnancy, get your client to visit a GP. In terms of the protocol itself, what we'll be covering off today is the Young Mums Protocol, which is a new protocol that had been added to the COM6 Alliance. We understand that not everybody on the presentation today will have... Sorry, could we just get you to pause? So the Young Mums Protocol is loaded into the Alliance system. However, we'll talk about in future sessions how to manage fluid. Sorry, can we get you to pause your sound? Sorry, is that... If everyone turn off their sound, please. But basically, the fluid retention protocol, the Young Mums Protocol, is 100% natural. It's non-medicated. The idea of it is to stimulate the venous and lymphatic circulation, and this can actually mobilize up to over 1 litre for immediate relief. During pregnancy, you can use the fluid mobilization protocol, but so long as you avoid the stomach step. And then something else to note, it's important to not use any slimming protocols during pregnancy. This is just a quick overview of the fluid mobilization protocol, noting that what we'll be covering off today is the Young Mums Protocol. But this is just something that we can discuss with Maria after the fact, or you can talk to us further about. But basically, the Integral and the Alliance systems have both got fluid mobilization protocols in them. And ultimately, what you can do is use this to manage fluid retention during pregnancy. And as I mentioned earlier, just important to avoid the abdominal region. So you're focusing just on the legs and the hips and the waist. And that's just an important way of helping to provide relief during pregnancy. In terms of where its application, basically LPG post-pregnancy will help drain excess fluid. So particularly for the first weeks after giving birth. I spoke to Maria about this last week, and she basically said that, yeah, you can start with an LPG treatment soon after having the baby. And the main reason is the sooner you get onto it, the easier it will be throughout the coming weeks. Once hormones have stabilized, then you could start to look at things like the Cesarean scar and dealing with the fibrosis associated with it. And then at some point around that time, you could also discuss those BMI issues and the storage of localized fat. That's it for my section. I'll hand over to Maria in just a moment. I just wanted to quickly remind you that we have 2 subsequent webinars after this one. We've got one that will discuss marketing support. So we do get a lot of calls for marketing support. And the main things we'll cover off here is just how to create an active profile for yourself. That'll be presented by both Darren and Bernadette. We will cover off the third of the session will be on fluid management itself. So this will be particularly relevant for those that have got LPG integral devices because that protocol is loaded into an integral system. In terms of future training opportunities, Maria works with us and has trained many of you in the last 12 months. So please don't hesitate to contact us at any point in time about things like one-on-one mentoring. We can host group sessions. We were actually planning on hosting a group-based refresher course here in our Sydney Training Centre. Unfortunately, we had to cancel it, but we'll be doing something like that next year. You can also book private one-on-one sessions with Maria, face-to-face or via Zoom. So please don't hesitate to contact us anytime. We will be providing a recording of this after the presentation. So I'll step over now to Maria and Bernie.
Thank you, Paul, for the presentation. I really appreciate it. It's really informative value for our customers. So I'm very glad to be here and talk about the Young Mom protocol and the fluid mobilization. We'll do a little bit of the video recording. We did a couple of weeks ago with 2 of my clients. So first, I was having a pregnant woman, 38 weeks, really healthy women. So we have this lifestyle and exercise and diet, and she was doing really well. So that should show that we still can do fluid mobilization right at the end of the pregnancy if everything is going well. If you have any doubt about the fluids, we also can ask our GPs, the doctors or the midwife, to make sure that we are not dealing with any contraindication as preeclampsia, as Paul just said. I think now we're going to have the video. Yes.
Yes, sorry.
You can see the video. Really good. And also will be available if you have any question, please write on the chat. So Paul will ask me.
Yeah, I'll be able to. So what throughout the Maria's presentation, maybe you just pause it for a sec, Bernie. Yeah, throughout Maria's presentation, please feel free to put your questions in the chat, and I'll adjudicate at different points in time.
Beautiful. So here we have the demonstration using the Sewell 6 Alliance. Of course, we still can do the fluid mobilization with an integral device as well. So don't hesitate to ask me any question right now. So I can see new people as well. So I want to describe endermologie, the body endermologie technique. So it's a technique that is going to stimulate the cells using a patented roller and flaps technology. And that's going to improve the circulation, lymphatic circulation as well, to tone in the skin. And also it's going to help to increase up to 70% the release of the fat that we were talking about, the BMI during the pregnancy and after pregnancy. So that's known as the lipolysis. Well, in this particular case, we had the fluid mobilization. What we do is really stimulate the lymphatic system. And we will have a chance to go through the lymph nodes. As you know, the lymphatic system is really a very complex network of vessels. That's going to help it to release the toxins, all the waste, and everything that we don't really want in the body. And that is really important, specifically during the pregnancy. As Paul said, the origin of the swelling, we have a big weight in the tummy that is going to press the cava venous, and also the uterus weight is going to avoid that our lymph nodes are working properly, and all this water retention is going to stack mainly in the lower part of the legs, but it's also possible in the upper limb, so arms and hands. If you notice that as soon as you have your pregnancy women's coming through you need to perform a very strong assessment. So make sure that you don't have any medical conditions. when we are free and they are able to do the treatments, what we're doing is just check the fluid mobilization settings in our device, which is right automatic, and we will follow exactly all the steps that we've shown you. Regarding the pregnancy, for me, it's really important to have them really comfortable on the table. So make sure that all the time you're gonna check with them how they feel, if they are experiencing any discomfort, bring full of pillows and makes them really comfortable in the table. Here's, for example, you can see we are performing lymph node stimulation around the lower back. It's important here to be really light. Don't put any pressure around the sacrum area because we can stimulate some of the pressure points. And as this stage of the pregnancy, we don't want to do that. Another thing that we need to double check for those who are already experienced with the treatment is the position of the flap and the roller. So make sure that you are going down actually. And from exteriors, you can see our manual lymphatic drainage. So you used to do it from the feet to the upper body. So in this case, you can see we are going down, and that's the reason why we need to do like this, because our flap and suction is actually moving the fluids upwards. So it doesn't really, it's not doing what we just see. So if when we place in the machine through the hips to the through the knee, it's actually moving all the lymphatic system outward to the inguinal lymph nodes. Also, when we're doing that, sometimes you can see a little bit of more swelling around the ankles. In this case, we can also modify a little bit the treatment. So we spend most of the time right in the calf area, for example. So even though the protocol is telling you go down all the legs, we need to observe where the most accumulated of liquid is, and we will spend extra time on those areas too. You can see as well, I'm double checking with my clients. It was really lovely. She was falling asleep all the time. So it's very relaxing treatment. So that's allow them to relax while you're doing a good lymphatic treatment. So we go now to the young mom protocol, which is the step that we are going to do right after delivering babies. That's to help us to recover as fast as we can from the birth. So we have still good stimulation of the lymphatics. We are going to tone the skin, which is really important as well after delivery, because we change sides suddenly, and sometimes the skin doesn't follow those changes so fast. So with our endermologie, we are able to stimulate the fibroblast and to tone the skin as well. The latest step, it will be activating the lipolysis. So you start right away after birth. We are not going to be focused on that much. Why? Because hormonal system is quite very active still. So we want to have 2 months of regular periods, or 2 months after stopping breastfeeding, to get the best of our lipolysis stimulation. The first step in this young mom protocol, as you can see, is really relaxing as well. So we're going through the back, and we are performing a very relaxing back massage. That helps, for example, with some inconvenience with after pregnancy, which is carpal tunnel. That's helped to release the shoulder blade area, the neck. So we're releasing a lot of tension as well as we are stimulating the circulation and toning the skin. So it's important for you to know that, because we can explain our customer in the assessment what endermologie really does in this particular case and recovering. So my customer here sees 4 weeks after giving birth. She had a cesarean, as Paul said, it's very common at the moment, so up to 34% at the moment. So we need to assess if they have cesarean or not, because that's going to help us to modify or to give them the best protocol that we can do. Treatment of cesarean is something that we can, I will talk about that later when we're doing the stomach. But in here, for example, the next step is going through the waist and to the lower part. So again, not only we are focusing on the fat reduction here in very early stage, but releasing the pain, helping the joints and the ligaments to recover for this events. And we make sure that our customer is really relaxing at this stage. She was loving it. Someone kept her baby while she was doing the treatments. And this is your due time. You want to really have something for yourself. You can maybe probably not sleeping properly. So it's really a moment of, it's a luxury treatment as well for our customer to have. So once you understand the principle behind the endermologie, which is really activating the lipolysis and the fluids and the blood circulation, then we also can relax and do our treatments without any major difficulties. So make sure that you understand the process, you explain to your customer, and then you relax while you're doing the treatments. Another stage to have, if you have questions, to write it down. So I'm more than happy to answer all of that.
No questions at this point, Maria.
No question? Good. So while we're waiting for the lipolysis to be active, which is normally taking a couple of months after getting our cycle regulated, it is important to get our skin at the maximum condition. And that's what's happening if you do the treatments really early. We have 2 points. If you have already performed the fluid mobilization prior to giving birth, and you started right away after giving birth, your body is already adapted to the technique. So you are able to recognize the mobilization with the flaps and rollers, our mechanical stimulation, and your cells are actually really perceptive to what's going on. And what I find is, if you find your regular customer and you've been following them during the pregnancy, once they come to you in a young mom, they are completely in confidence. So they can relax, their body function really well. They are very confident with the lifestyle as well. They're coming back to exercise and they're still following a good diet programs. So that's going to allow you to have the best of the results that we can get at this stage. So I was showing in the video really the position onto the flap and the roller. That is important in order to get the best stimulation we can do. So in this particular case, we are going to divide the lower back into half. So one of the half, the flap is always facing down, facing to the table. And now you will see I'm going to swap over the head. So my flap will turn always in the side of the table. That makes sense? So it's something that sometimes we are not paying attention too much because we are distracted with talking, or and it's something that is really important. The second point, while we're treating this particular lower back area, it's be attentive to the pain and to any discomfort that may happen because they have different sensitivity areas. So if you feel any pain or any redness around the sacrum area, the lower back, please just reduce the intensity. So the intensity that we're using in this protocol is pretty much the same that we normally using on our protocol. So it's really, you need to have this fluid treatment. So the machine needs to be able to move almost by itself. So we're just guiding the treatment head, but we are not pressing. If any pain or any redness, we just reduce the intensity. In these 3 steps, basically we have the love handles treatments, and we always finish it by the lifting up. So in this particular case, we go from the bottom area up to the middle of the back, and that's going to allow us to resculpt the weights and to give this tonicity that we lost after the pregnancy. Yeah, you can see how we go slowly moving upwards. And I found in my client a little bit of fibrosis areas, and she told me, yes, it was sore a little bit. So I was reducing the intensity for her to make it really comfortable. You also need to understand that after 9 months of pregnancy, women need a little bit of time to recover the actual shape. And if you are getting to lose in between 3 and 4 kilos, it's normally take between 3 to 6 months to recover from that if you're following your good healthy lifestyles, doing exercise and controlling the diet. So what's the point here is really to to know if they're having a good sleep or not. Make them feel welcome to your clinic as well, talking to them, be understanding, because we're dealing with a lot of changes, hormonal changes, but also lack of sleep. We feel tired. Sometimes some of the women, they feel a little bit lost as well, especially if it's the first baby. So the place for us to come to the endermology is also a place to talk and to don't just, and we can sometimes advise them and give them like good vibes. So step 6 to 9, we're going to do the both side of the bottom. So make sure again your position of the flap is looking down. That's going to allow us to rescald the bottom and lift up the bum to give this roundiness as well. And at the same time, we are releasing some of the big muscles, the glutes, and we are preparing and treating the cellulite that is already being stuck for a few months while we were pregnant. So all of this happening in one single movement. So it's when we see it, it's very simple, but actually we are working at the different layers of the skin. As you know, we firm the skin, we treat the cellulite, and we activate the lipolysis all at the same time. Okay, so even though the lipolysis is now a little bit blocked because of the beta and alpha 2 receptors and due to the hormones, we are already preparing the skin to get the best of the result as soon as we can. So this step is really loved by clients. They really like to do the balm. Some of them, they say, can I do a little bit more here? I just love it. So if you have those kind of reactions, I'm happy to add a couple of minutes to the balm area, because happy clients are important. And after doing the balm, we are going to move to the leg. So we were filming one side of the protocol here, so you have an idea, but it's actually we go one side to another side as well. So we ran out of time, so unfortunately we couldn't film the whole protocol, but having the half, you have already of the position of the treatment heads, how it's working, and you have the opportunity to get all the questions you may have for you or for your staff members as well. So I know that we are recording this webinar, so make sure to share with them, with all the staff, and please let us know if you have any further question while you're doing the treatments. Now we are going to do this side here, so the inner side. You have 3 steps that we are going to do together. On the first one, we are facing the flap inside through the inner legs. And even though the treatment is telling you to go from the hip up to the knee, we need to feel and to check where are all these stagnation areas. Where is the fibrosis areas located? Where is the most stubborn fat area as well? And where is, if she has some swelling, where is this swelling located? That's going to allow us to structure the time of the session and delivering specifically where we need to be. So what I recommend, if we have 1 minute 20 or 1 minute 30 to do this particular step, we do a big lap covering all the areas, and the rest of the time, we will focus where we really need to be. I know you all know that because of you've done the training, so that's to be an easy part. Make sure in between steps, you always rotate the head in the correct position. How do you know that? You just double check again with the screen, and then you come back and see your head, and you should be fine. But just sometimes double check, because if we're talking or distract, it can be incorrect. So that's something good. Another thing I like to do as well, and I want you to get aware of, is of the timing. So in the Alliance, we have the blue line around the treatment heads. That's telling you, indicating you how we are in this particular step. That's important, specifically more when we are finishing, because I don't want to finish in a very abrupt way. So I don't want to finish in the middle of the leg, just sucking up the leg and the head. So I make sure that I finish smoothly in an end of the leg, or it could be around the knee, or it could be in the hip area. But I make all these fluid motions connecting one step after each other so that my client get the maximum relaxation of the treatments. So imagine you're doing a manual massage, you don't want to keep your hands in and out all the time. So that's happening exactly the same with the Allianz. So we have all movement to get connected together and very trying to develop this flow on the treatments. And it's actually really relaxing too. So we have these 3 steps programs. Once we facing the heads through the inside of the leg. And now the last one, we are doing lifting. So that's important when we're losing weight or we're losing some fluids, because at the same time we tone the skin, we want to lift the knee areas and also the inner thigh pockets. Okay, so we go now to one of the latest steps in the Young Man program is the abdomen. The abdomen is really sensitive after giving birth. So we need to double check with them all the time how it is, how does it feel, is this very intense? If it is not intense, we can go up in intensity, but I will have tendency to start very low intensity and double checking with her, and then from the treatment head, we can regulate the intensity. That's what I'm doing exactly now. My customer, she had a C-section, very common. I assessed prior to the treatments. It was non-inflammatory, not any swelling, not any redness. So it was quite safe to do the treatments. And that's, even if it's not specifically a C-section treatment, it's already helping her to recover. So while we're working at distance, the scar is gonna have this influx of blood that's gonna release some of the lymph nodes around the scar as well. So we can release all the toxins. And that works actually as a painkiller. So it's regulating the pain. If you have cases like that, I really recommend to get the distance from the scar, the C-section, specifically the first month. So don't go too low through the scar. And as soon as you know that we can go over the scar, that's mainly after 6 months to a year, then we can do our beauty treatments as regular. If you have any complications with the scars, sometimes happens, the stitches are not correct, or they have an infection, or they won't open a bit, I recommend just keep the tummy treatment. So don't hesitate to tell them, you know, listen, we are gonna wait until the scar is properly settled, and then we'll do the Young Man protocol on the tummy. And you know all how to skip the treatment. So you pass through the finger, we can do the front of the legs, or dedicate this time to the arms as well. So in here, we divide as well the abdomen in 2 parts. So we're going to avoid to do the belly button area. And that's why, that's because the abdominal rectum is still not fully recovered. So we have this big fascia area around the belly button, which is a little bit sensitive. So you could do, you can go through the tummy, and it's okay. So I don't like to remove the head and coming back to another side. But if I go through the middle of the tummy, I make sure that I go quickly and pass through my main area of concern. So again, in this particular tummy treatments, we are dedicating all the time to skin tone. So we are making sure that we stimulate the dermis. And in this way, we stimulate the fibroblasts, and that's doing the elastin, collagen, and hyaluronic acid production in the tummy area, which is super important as part of the pregnancy recovery. Also, you may notice, you can say, oh, can I do like a regular treatment instead of the Young Mom? I won't really recommend, because the settings that we got in this particular case are made for women after pregnancy. So you can see it's a little bit lighter treatments than our regular treatments, but it's still working in everything that endermology is always been working with, its lymphatic circulation, skin toning, and helping the lipolysis to be active. What happened as well with the C-section in this case, most of the time C-section and adhesions are working as barrier for for the fats. So the fat cells has tendency to go to the weak areas because the muscle are not working properly. So it's very prone to have this the fat pocket development as well. So not only we develop the fats, biological fat that we need to feed to create more milk, to have the energy levels up, to regulate our temperature, but it's also these fat cells are used in the scar tissue as support, and that's one of the reasons why we have all these carbon fat areas in C-section women specifically. So of course, coming back to our regular exercise routine and diet is part of our job as well. So we need to talk with them, be patient. We have some fun as well with our customers. So I like to talk with them and make some jokes as well. But we need to be there present to remind them and the step to follow and to stick to the routine, like good lifestyle routine as well. And I think that's part of our job in the side way with endermology. Our last steps, as you notice, we are going down again, and that's because we are lifting up our tummy. If we lack a little bit of elasticity, we can have what we call the sad belly button. So we go backwards, we go facing down, and that's going to help to lift up our tummy.
I've just got a question,
yeah, of course.
Maria. The question's from Simone. When should we move to a regular treatment, not young mum's protocol post-pregnancy? Is it after 2 cycles returning or post-breastfeeding?
It's a really good question. So what we're looking for is hormonal stability. Some of the women get the hormonal stability after having the period back, and we normally say 2 cycles because in the meantime, it could be a little bit of the mess with the hormones. So once we have 2 complete cycles, that means we are ready to get the lipolysis active again. It's going to take a little bit of time, but it's the time why we swap to our regular treatments. So it could be someone who already have a baby, maybe 6 months after, and they didn't know they could do endermology. Then instead of doing the young mom protocol, you go directly to your regular programs. The breastfeeding is actually interfering to hormonal system. So that's why we say, or having 2 regular period, or after you finish breastfeeding, because we still have the same program. Why you keep breastfeeding? Your hormone system is working on that and is not liberating the fat tissue that we need for losing weight. So it's more dedicating this energy to produce milk, for example. And that's why we don't recommend to do the regular protocol until we stop breastfeeding. Really good question, Simon.
So the purpose of the young mums protocol is really about releasing fluids, helping deal with some of those adhesions, obviously once the Cesarean scar is stabilized, and helping prepare for future LPG treatments, would you say? Or how would you describe, encapsulate the young mums protocol?
It's more than preparing the skin for our protocol. It's just giving the chance the body to recover as fast as we can. So working on lymphatic treatments is the best way to do it. And endermology plays a very important role in this particular case. So we are also working in sensitivity. The skin is very sensitive after delivering. All the ligaments and joints and even the full body posture is changing. So we are going to regulate all of that much faster doing endermology than if we don't do it.
I've just got a question from Elena. Is there a minimum level of health certification required to provide LPG treatments for pregnant women?
Okay, it's another good question. Thank you, Elena. So I know you have a massage therapy degree, so it will go into your capacities to perform pregnancy massage. If you have this qualification, it's really wonderful because you have all the knowledge behind. So you know where the preeclampsia symptoms are. You know a little bit when to recommend to go to the midwife on to work on this, maybe sore points or pressure points as well. Endermology is really safe to perform in all stages of the pregnancy. but we will say that we keep it really safe, and we will do it in between the beginning of the 3 months and the first weeks of the pregnancy, just to let all this miscarriage chain to go away. And once you're safe and the women are like more prone to develop this swelling, it's when we go for lymphatic massage. In post-pregnancy, we, as Paul said before, we just need to make sure that everything is going well with the scar tissue, that we don't have a preeclampsia or eclampsia or those kind of very dangerous sign of the pregnancy. But other than that, if we have the green light, we are able to do the treatments. Our role here, I don't think is more the medical, but really be with the women, be with them, supporting, giving back to lifestyle, stimulating the skin and the cellular skin, the cellular are also preparing for the lipolysis and to get this BMI reduced. So we are going to help them to lose these 3-4 extra kilos after pregnancy, and that's really what we are going to focus on.
I've just got a question from Sheridan. Would you say that the Young Mums protocol improves skin durability and elasticity?
Of course. So any kind of protocol that we're using with endermology, it's been proved, and we have some good studies on the collagen stimulation and the fibroblast stimulation. So once we target the fibroblast stimulation, what automatically we're doing with the alliums, we stimulate the elastin, collagen, and the hyaluronic acid production, and that automatically is going to work on the skin quality. So when we're talking those things in the scar tissue, we're going more into the medical, but we're still working on the collagen and the adhesions, fibrosis, and that's really good for us as women to recover. But in the beauty, in particularly young mom and fluid mobilization, it's going to help us to recover the elasticity in the areas it's been very stretched, and that's mean the tummy and the legs if you have excess of fluid as well. When you reduce the fluid with the protocol, our skin needs to come back to original position as well. And we do that with endermology. The earlier we do, the better chance we have to have a skin really prepared and adaptable to those changes. And that's why we try to, as soon as you have any pregnancy plan, we say we are going to be here for you to plan your pregnancy, so we can do treatments during pregnancy and right after pregnancy, and we will come back to our routine while we can stimulate the lipolysis in our regular treatments. Yeah, thank you. Really good question. I love it.
Maria, I've just got a question. It's relating to the cosmetics, because we list the few cosmetics at the end of the slide there. They're more than safe to use as part of the Young Mums protocol. And also, could you comment the importance of using, say, an LPG cosmetic versus another cosmetic product post-pregnancy? Why would you pick the LPG cosmetics?
Good question as well. So I think whilst we come to the cosmetics, LPG has more than 30 years of research. You know that, so we know what we're talking about. We know when to activate the fat cells as well. We're not telling women do this protocol because you're going to lose weight tomorrow. So we know the science, we understand the hormones, we understand the fact of the natural beauty. So what we are trying to reduce is the side effect of the overweight during pregnancy. And that has an impact in the cellulite, for example. So using all the cosmetic in the body are very safe. You know that they are not organic, but they are quite natural. And all the ingredients are based in the marine plants, algae. So they're very safe to use. Even on face treatments, so during the pregnancy we can do endermology face treatments as well. I won't recommend the vitamin C serum because you are, as women, pregnancy, you are a little bit photosensitive. So it's the only one that we don't use in pregnancy women, but the rest of very recommends. Also, and that is organic as well, the Nutri Cosmetics package are gonna help us to get rid of this excess of fluid, to learn how to do the proper routine. So when we finish with the pregnancy, we already know and we are sticking to a nice routine. Those are very safe to have as well. The green tea is amazing. The LPG brutality beast boosting, it's perfect as well for pregnancy to recover. We want to make sure that all vitamins, all minerals are in the body, the iron, vitamin C, all the vitamin B numbers. And having an extra of collagen, that's going to help us, our dermis, to recover faster. So yes, proposed endermology cosmetics is a part of our treatments. Of course, you have a choice in the election of the cosmetic you want to use, but I will stick to endermology just because the fact that they have really long research, they're very natural, and they are working together in our philosophy as well.
Excellent. We don't have any other questions at this point. What I'll do, I'll just do a segue into probably the other series. So we've obviously got the second part will be to discuss marketing and just marketing support. So what Bernadette is currently working on and we'll have ready around the time of the webinar is a Dropbox type format where you'll be able to download marketing material. We do have available for free posters. We have some things called totems, which stand up on their own, and we've got some display trays for the vitality booster. So please don't hesitate to give us a call. The posters are very high quality. They have to be stuck to the wall. But if you also have some custom artwork that you want produced, we won't necessarily produce them, but we can provide a local printer with all the artwork file, and it's more practical to do that because you basically just need to work out with your local printer. If you want to have a big display wall or a nice window, we're more than happy to provide high resolution images. And so that's what the second part will focus on, is just how to have a good and active Instagram profile or Facebook. If you don't follow us already, please look out for our Instagram, Endotherapeutics Aesthetics, Endermology ANZ, our Facebook pages. Please follow us and share our content. We'd also encourage you to follow the international sites, the LPG Endermology international pages. In terms of valuable resource material, COSIRE, which is spelled COSIRE, or LPG Medical are really good sites to just familiarize yourself with in terms of being able to do your own research. As Maria has said, both the technology and the cosmetics have got 30 years of data behind them. There's over 150 studies. Many have been published in Medline. So they're in an environment where there's a lot of technology on the market, some evidence-based, some not. It's good to be able to lean on a technology like LPG, which is a highly evidence-based technology. So feel free to familiarize yourself with that website. We'll share it probably after this webinar as well. And then in terms of the third session, we have had some requests for integral-based protocols, and we recognize that many of you have got key modules, integral devices, or Allianz. Obviously, Allianz is the latest generation, and we are a bit limited to what material we've got. So the Young Mums protocol has only been released as a Alliance protocol, but the third part is definitely relevant to an integral user. So it's based on the fluid mobilization protocols, and definitely is well worth watching. We are currently working on also creating a nice directory of all the protocols that are currently in the Alliance system. So we've documented all the protocols, because I feel myself that if you're looking at an Alliance machine, you sometimes can't find the wood for the trees. So we are actually in the process of documenting all the protocols that are in the system. So we'll be able to release that before too long. As I said earlier, if any time you feel you've got any further training needs, or you want some advice, or you just need to give us a call, feel free to contact me, Bernadette, or Maria directly. We're based here in Sydney, and so our plan is that once the world gets back to somewhat normal, we'll also look to host some group-based training sessions next year. So these are probably sometimes a bit more cost-effective if cost is an issue, or you're happy to learn in a group-based environment, which can be a little bit more fun. We have a wonderful training centre here in Macquarie Park, convenient parking. It's located very close to Macquarie Park train station and next to the Macquarie Centre. So we'll actually be hosting some group-based training sessions next year, where we'll actually be able to host up to 10 to 20 people. We've got multiple beds. We'll bring in multiple machines, and it'll be a combination of theory and practical. So we'll be looking to do that as well. So I think that's it, unless anyone's got any other questions. One other comment is we look out for our Black Friday sales. We are admittedly promoting LPG on Black Friday. Some deals are very sharp. And look, the overall point of this is to obviously just build the awareness, and that's something we also focused on doing well and truly into 2022, is to just build the consumer awareness as well around LPG. So it's a big part of our focus. We've been, Bernadette, all credit to her, has been recently posting some videos on Wellbox. So again, follow us on Instagram and just look at what we're doing in terms of trying to improve the presence for LPG in the consumer space as well. So if anyone has any other questions, please feel free to comment now. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining the webinar. Thank you, Maria, for all your words and your knowledge, and for allowing us to record the session in your training centre. I know you're very passionate about LPG, and that's why Maria is a fantastic resource. So please don't hesitate to reach out to her as well.